Literature is dead and AI has killed it, but it's not AI's fault. It's weak authors' fault for letting AI take their place. And here today, I'm going to give you guys a perspective on AI and literature that you will hear nowhere else, because I'm going to talk about the real causal factors and the real solution of how to create a literary renaissance. And right now, with how things are going with AI, with how authors are acting, we are never going to make that happen. And so my name is Ian, and that's my job right here, right now. Help kick off a literary renaissance. And so the number one reason why reading, and I should say serious reading, transformative reading, has started to decline at crazy rates, why literacy, especially with younger men and women, has started to decline, is not technology, but rather authors' refusal to adapt to the new digital reality we are living in. Because people love to say, oh my God, why would anyone want to read anymore when they can doom scroll all day? It's technology's fault. It's AI's fault. But when you look at other artistic mediums, music, the visual arts, cinema, and others, they have adapted. And independent creators in those genres continue every single year to break through and release transformative works out to the population, avant-garde stuff. And it can become insanely popular. There are directors, musicians, visual artists at the top of the heap who have used the internet to get themselves there. We cannot say the same thing about writers. Outside of genre fiction and fiction that is just meant to entertain people, dopamine addicts, which is cool. But outside of that, we have yet to have a transformative author pull themselves up and share their work with the world. All the other genres have had dozens, and things like music have had hundreds, if not thousands, of artists do that. Why have we not done that as writers yet? And it's easy, once again, to blame technology. But much like music having a streaming revolution with Spotify and Apple Music or Napster or whatever, or cinema with Netflix, the visual arts with the internet, we've had a major revolution too. We had blogs, we had ebooks, Kindle, the audiobook revolution. We've had just as many innovations to make reading easier and more accessible and more fun for people in the world. We've had the same evolution in software with writing programs and everything else. Book covers, everything has gotten better. But where are the real authors? And the answer to that question is not that there aren't any good authors anymore. I know plenty of authors who write just as good, or will in the next 5 or 10 years write just as good as anybody on this shelf. But I have talked to hundreds of authors personally. And the number one thing, holding literature back is that authors are scared to put themselves out there, to actually put their identity and full force of personality and strength behind their work. And if an author, let's say, adopts a pen name, and we could use Yukio Mishima, for example. Yukio Mishima, the famous Japanese author, is not named Yukio Mishima. But throughout his career, Yukio Mishima's identity, who he was as a person, literal person, where he lived, what he did, his identity was attached to his name and to his work. Everyone knew who this guy was and what he was about. And he was not only sitting in his room and writing all night, he was in society. He was writing nonfiction. He was into politics. He was into journalism. He was doing a million different things to get his writing out in the world. He was on the news. And so when I look at most authors, many of them are scared of their work. I know countless authors who have a pen name. And if you have a pen name, then how do I know that you are just not AI? If you are not standing behind your work, why do I care about you anymore? There are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of great pieces of literature that I could read for the rest of my life. There's an unlimited amount of reading with books just from the 18th century that could blow my mind. And so the question modern authors have refused to acknowledge or look at is, why should anybody care about you? Yes, you spent all of this time writing your novel or working on your craft. So what? Yeah, the publishing houses suck now. They've been taken over. In the 90s, they got corporatized and pushed out real writers and added in a bunch of fluff. And now it's Armageddon over there. The same thing happened in the music industry. The same thing happened in the movie industry. The same thing happened in the art industry. Many of the behemoths fell or no longer had as much money. And what did those artists do? Did they sit and complain? Did they sit and overthink? Or did they break through and make something happen? Did almost any, when I think of people who are directors, who are artists and musicians, they all put themselves out there. Maybe visual artists, graphic design, not as much, but ceramicists, sculptors, painters, they go display their work. They chum it up with agents. They chum it up with people out in the world to sell their work to survive. Musicians do something called going on tour, where their literal body is on a stage. Their identity, their person is on a stage performing to people. Same with directors. They have to assemble a whole team together and do it. But we are the introverts as writers. We like to hide in general. That is our nature. But as time progresses and AI continues to increase in strength, our duty, our job as a writer is going to not just be sit around and write all day, because for a long time, that's not what a writer did. Yes, at the base axiomatic level, a writer writes, and writers will have to continue to write and get good at writing. But our conception is still linked and is being programmed by the golden age of literature, by from the 1920s to the mid 2000s, where you could submit your work to a slush pile and make it as an author. Or there were all these positions at creative writing programs at universities that you could go sit in and make money. All of that is closing up. Literary fiction and real writing and the opportunities for new authors are decreasing every single year. There are less than 5 authors per year who write literary fiction that get a publishing deal that's worth over $50,000. Imagine. Everyone out here thinks they're going to be a writer and do all this stuff, but there is almost no opportunities. And how many of those couple are just people who are connected? And so we only have one option left. And it's been like this for a while. Honestly, it's been like this since the mid 2000s, and we've kind of refused to adapt. But now with AI, and we've moved into genre fiction and all this stuff. But now with 10 million books being published every single year, and that number with AI is going to go up to 15 to 20 million per year, if not higher by the end of the decade, then why should I care about you and your writing? And the answer is that you are going to have to make me care. And one of the best examples of this and why your writing is not enough is Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson was a UFC champion that defended his title over 10 times, but nobody knew, or I should say nobody cared about him. He had fun fights. He finished a lot of people. He had a crazy style. He was doing flying arm bars. He was really fast. Yes, he was in a smaller weight class. Nobody cared. And the reason was because he was just a nice dude that really didn't have a personality. He really didn't connect and bring anybody in. Nobody cared about him as a person, because there are fighters all the time who are idiots, who don't have a good personality, but maybe they're from Dagestan, like Islam Makhachev or Habib. Maybe they're from Ireland, like Conor McGregor. And then they can tie their personality to a nation or a religion like Islam. And then that will make people care because of these brand associations. But there have been countless fighters that have been forgotten who were some of the best because they refuse to put themselves out there more in an industry that kind of forces you to do that if you want to make money and be known. They failed. And so, yes, they were good fighters. And yes, you are maybe a good writer. And I'll give you a pat on the back right now. Hopefully you feel that psychically coming through. But no one is coming to save you. And the last thing that I want, guys, like this happens all the time. I go on Substack.com, which is the home of the literary renaissance, everybody. If you are not putting your writing on Substack right now, then I have no idea what you are doing. If you are a writer and you are not on Substack, then you are just circling the drain right now. I know a secret. I know that you have a ton of poems, short stories that you've written before, and you think they're going to one day get published in some compilation like Thomas Pynchon's Slow Learning when you're famous 40 years down the road. It's probably not going to happen. But right now, you could post your work online where the best readers and writers in the world are. And people will read it. And if you put it out there and show people it and talk about it, a lot of people will read it. And so go join Substack. I'm going to link my Substack down below so you guys can see an example of the power of Substack for writing and for other things and promoting your work. But I'm on Substack all the time. Like literally, I spend an hour a day browsing Substack, if not more, just reading poetry, nonfiction, fiction, whatever. But as soon as I click on an article, you guys, or a short story, this is exactly what I do. I click on the profile. And I know we're supposed to have this code that I read blind, new criticism, separate the author from the art and the artist. I don't do that. When I go to someone's profile, I click on someone's story, I click on their profile and see what they are about, see what they're up to, see who they follow. And I know that's not a good way to judge someone's work, but that's how most people on the platform are going to judge your work and see if they want to follow you or invest their time. Because if you post a short story on Substack, you are asking someone to sit down anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes, if not more, and mentally exert themselves to consume your work. And so I would like to see if that effort is worth it before I hop into it. And so if I click on someone's profile and they have a random profile picture that isn't them, and they have no identity connected to their work, they have a random name or whatever, I just usually click off. I don't really care. Because in my limited amount of time, I want to read people who I can connect with, who I can get to know, whose backstory I can learn, who have been on someone's podcast before, who's have information about them, so I can get further invested into their work. That's what I want. It's not just about the punches and the kicks. Demetrius Johnson can do a spinning back kick and knock someone out. You could write a beautiful story, but it's bigger than that. And that's what you ask a publishing house to do. Getting a publisher isn't just about them distributing your book to bookstores. It's about creating a story about you. Cormat McCarthy, who I have over here, his first 5 novels never sold more than 3,000 copies when he was with Random House. But then after his editor, Albert Erskine, died, or retired, I should say, he signed a new deal with Alfred Knopf, the publisher, and they brought in their marketing genius, their best person. And before he released his novel, All the Pretty Horses, they had him in Esquire. They had him in all these magazines talking about his cowboy roots, how he's the best writer. They marketed the shit out of him and lied, you guys. They literally lied. Cormat McCarthy had never ridden a horse in his life, but he was talking about being a cowboy. He had this rugged personality, but if you listen to him talk, he actually is a soft-spoken, kind of kind dude who just is a nerd. All these different things were your conception of Cormat McCarthy is mostly because of some New York executive who was a marketing genius. Literally, almost everybody who thinks something of Cormat McCarthy it's not real. And I know that sounds bad, like, oh my God, I'm authentic, I'm real. Ian, you're telling me to put my identity out there. But your identity is only what you share with us. And you can choose consciously to magnify certain aspects so that people care more about what you're doing, especially if those aspects connect to your work. Cormat McCarthy was marketed as this cowboy, rugged individual, this recluse, because he wrote Westerns. He wrote these things, and that's the type of person you imagine who writes a Western. You don't imagine a dude whose dad was the valedictorian of the Yale Law School, who grew up rich, who was some Southern dude, who was a nerd into mathematics and science. You don't imagine that dude's writing this rugged Western. No, so they didn't mention any of that stuff. I actually have access over on my Substack. I have this unreleased Cormat McCarthy interview. Well, it's not, it was done by the New York Times and I got the entire tape. The guy who wrote the piece did McCarthy a favor because throughout the entire, hours long interview and the tape recording, they talk about science and rattlesnakes and dogs and hunting. Never gets mentioned once in this New York Times kind of huge interview that was done on him, this piece that millions of people probably read, if not hundreds of thousands. And so that is your job, to make people care about your story. Hemingway, here he is, Ernest Hemingway. We're reading him. These are the books we're reading in the Right Conscious Book Club this month if you are interested, or over the coming months. Hemingway is not the best writer in the world. I like Hemingway. I've been to the Hemingway conference. I went to the one in Wyoming and Cook City, Montana and stuff. But I care about Hemingway because of the story. Watching the Ken Burns documentary or going to the conference and learning more about him made me care more about his work. But if I was learning about XY1212, the dude with the profile picture, blah, 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 I don't really care about that, you guys. And now that I know that AI is here and can just as easily create and humanize something that may not be trackable, and people are like, oh, I can tell. Eventually you won't be. Then what's the difference? And maybe there'll be people out there, and there will be, who are using AI to write and they attach their identities to it. But nonetheless, I don't really care. At the end of the day, I'm here for an experience, because a transformation is more than that. You know how many people, I'm sure you know right now, statistically, you are probably out of shape and overweight right now, probably not as happy as you could be. You could be doing all these things. And right now, if I asked you, hey, John, how do you get more in shape or do this? You would tell me exactly what you need to do, but you don't do it. Why? Most likely because you don't have any accountability. But if I hired you a personal trainer, a personal chef, all these different things, could you do it? Would it be easier? The answer is yes. But it's not just about accountability. It's about the trainer being there and talking to you and making specific stuff for you. It's the experience, and hopefully you like your trainer and you like their gym or something. It's cool and blacked out and there's metal music playing. Same with your chef. It's an experience having a new food brought to you that's steaming every single day. That's why we go to restaurants, for the experience. Yes, for the food, but an experience is everything. The same for transformation. So a lot of really good literature is waking you up, making you think differently. Well, we all know how to think differently. We know this kind of symphony of ideas, but why do people go to church then? You know, I know a bunch of people who've read the Bible, know about Christianity, follow the laws. It's for accountability. They want to be there and be present and get this family structure intact, but it's an experience, especially if it's fun. You see Bob, you see Jim, you do all this stuff. The same is true with spirituality. We all know these truths, but having a guru or whatever, going to a yoga class, it's always better with the group, or specifically with like someone you enjoy doing it with. And that's what content creation is. That's what writing is. I get to have this experience with Mishima. I get to read his biography. I get to read his novels. I get to contemplate his life. I get to reflect on the different periods of Japan and World War II and all this stuff through his perspective and his guidance and all of these different things. I want that. I could sit and read scholarly sources on Japan all day, but I would rather be led into that by Mishima than eventually go my own way. And I get, oh, you may be the one, right? You're the guy who does it all yourself. You're authentic. You don't need anyone's help. Okay, you're such a cool edgelord. Most people need help. Most people want the experience. They care about the experience more than what actually happens during the experience. I want you to think about that again. They care more about the experience than what happens during the experience. I've been to UFC fights, a ton of them. I grew up in Las Vegas, everybody. Went to a ton of fights, at least 20 UFC events and plenty of Bellator events, all these other Strike Force. I could go on, and just smaller events. I was in the martial arts scene there for a long time, over 12 years of training and knowing people, going to their fights. It's better to watch the UFC if you want to just watch the punches and the kicks at your house, literally, without the sound on. Literally watch the punches and kicks, see who wins. That's the best way to do it. The angles are perfect. Everything's great. But going to the UFC is a totally different experience. Hearing the crowd roar, the smell, the air, it's crazy in there. Hearing the kicks and seeing Joe Rogan over there and Dana White and all these famous people everywhere. It's the experience that makes it in totality better. And yes, it costs money. Yes, it's I have to go down to the T-Mobile Arena. Nonetheless, still better. It's the same with reading. Knowing this person that you're reading is releasing a book. Like, I'm releasing a book this year, watching me talk about it, watching me promote it, going to Amazon or even a bookstore the day it's released and getting the book, giving me a positive review. All these things are a part of an experience. And if it's attached to this random person with no identity in the game, because it could be your real name. You could be John White and your book says John White, but if you aren't putting yourself out there, then you're not helping the total experience. You guys don't know how great it was to go read Cormat McCarthy's The Passenger and be there for it. It was the first Cormat McCarthy launch I was there for. I was shocked. It was awesome. I remember where I was at. I was in Wyoming, Jackson, Wyoming, visiting. My family lived an hour outside of Jackson, Wyoming, but I was there. Some bougie bookstore, some rare bookstore. Got the book, got The Passenger, woke up early. And what's funny was that experience was partially ruined because I had read a scanned copy of The Passenger before it released. Someone had gotten an advanced copy and put it online, and I had read it. And so I knew for Stella Maris that someone had also posted that. I didn't read it yet because that kind of ruined it. And so with Stella Maris, it felt like this total experience. That is our job, to create an experience, which includes the cover, the formatting, Recently, there was a book called Major Arcana that I read, and it's been making kind of the waves out there by this independent author who's lifted himself up from Substack. This may be our person, but the formatting was terrible. The typesetting was terrible. So much so I lent it to my friend. I don't really care if he gives it back to me. I thought the book was fine. These are all the things that we control and that matter. This is what separates us. And so I want to talk now about practicalities because people are scared. But why are you scared, homie? As Nick Diaz would say. I've heard a million excuses for pen names. Like I said, I've talked to hundreds of writers personally online. Last November, I talked to 120 authors for 20 minutes each. Sometimes up some of those conversations lasted for an hour. No sales pitch, nothing. I just wanted to talk to authors and see what they were about for information like this. And I've also gotten to know hundreds of authors from my time running a writing workshop in Las Vegas, just a free writers group that I did for over 5 years. And so with all of that, I've met a lot of people with pen names who thought that that was going to be the route. And FYI, none of them, listen again, none of them have been successful. None of them have gotten book deals without attaching their identity to it. Anyway, so I've heard a range of excuses. One of the popular ones is that people are going to judge you, family members and stuff. And the only reason that family members judge you and feel like they can is because you let them and you are weak. If we were driving, you and I, let's say we were having a good discussion about books and we're on a trip and we're in downtown Tallahassee, Florida. And we see some weird Florida people who are hardcore Christians out there. Like, I believe the earth is 4,000 years old. And they have like, you're going to be burned in hell signs. Would you, if I said, hey, let's get out, let's go park over here at the 7-Eleven, go over there and try to convince them to be atheists. Would you even try? I mean, you would know, right? That there was a 0% chance of that happening. You would be like, why the hell would I do that? Well, I've learned that that's how you need to be in life. That if you don't have that type of resolution about what you are doing, then people will smell blood. Like I remember my mom, when I would tell her about my crazy dreams, would be like, yeah, well, why don't you get a job first? And like everyone reacted like that. When I would tell them I'm going to be a famous writer one day. I'm going to create a literary renaissance. I would literally say that. But I used to not be as resolute and they would pick me apart. But eventually I gained a confidence after putting myself out there with my identity, surprisingly enough, Ian Katanak, and getting criticism and all this stuff. No one has anything to say anymore. No one in person has said a word, even if they disagree with me. I have family members that are hardcore Mormon, Northern Utah, Southeastern Idaho, Mormon. Not a word. They know the crazy shit I talk about online. Not a word. Back in 2016, though, when I used to make YouTube content on yoga, still do. Yogadelics is that channel's name. Speaking of, this is the second channel of Right Conscious, which if you don't know, I run a writing channel named Right Conscious, which is much bigger than this one, and BookTube channel. But they gave me crap. They were like, oh, yeah, I saw your YouTube videos. Why are you making those? And like shit like that. Now they're like, damn, how much are you making, man? Was this what you're doing full time? Well, keep going. I'm saying crazier stuff now. I'm so confident, you guys. I have a job that's a public job. I live in a conservative town, everyone. I live in a town with a lot of religious people, a lot of people that are very uptight about anything that isn't super conservative or progressive, especially in school with their kids. 3 years now as a teacher, no problems. Everyone knows about my YouTube channel. Clips go around the school of me saying the craziest out of context things. It's wild. I haven't been fired yet. No one said a word. The local Facebook gossip page, all the gossip pages around town, no one said a word about me because people know that I don't care, that they can't get to me, that it doesn't matter. They also know that I'm so open about it that everyone in the administration know, and they don't care. But if I was hiding it and being weird, people would probably feel like they could get me. And so that's what you need first and foremost is a full resolution in yourself and what you are doing. So let's say it's not about you though. A lot of people talk about their family. You know, I talked to a guy who lived out in Northwest Texas, some small town. And he was like talking about how his novel has sex scenes in it. And his daughters are 13 to 15 years old. He has 3 of them. And they're all in middle school and high school right now. And he feels like if it gets big, they're going to be judged at school. And first and foremost, you have to realize the amount of people who do not read. That in that small town in Texas, that if your book started to explode, they would not have any idea. And if they did, then you would have to ask how many people are going to read it. And then you would have to ask how many people would care, because you can always say, this is just art. This is just what it is. I just wrote this. This is fiction. Of course people have sex. Of course people die. Of course there are racist, sexist people. Of course this happens. So once you say that, so then what group is left? And so let's say there is a group And let's say you're in some crazy town in Alabama. And what I've found in these small places, I've lived in Utah, Idaho, small towns in Oregon, now in Arizona, with around Mormons, Bible thumpers, anyone, most judgmental people. Almost none of them care. And let's say they come after you. Well, that might incentivize you to leave. And by the time they were coming after you, you'd be making enough supplemental income that you could leave and get a job. Let's say, in whatever town in Texas you live in, you have this job and it pays great. Well, if you get that big, you could take those tens of thousands of dollars a year you make from your writing, if not thousands of dollars, and move somewhere else. And it may be a good idea. And if you are scared of doing that, then I'm going to blow some minds right out now. People don't understand this. I'm gonna blow some minds. I remember hearing this for the first time and having so much resistance. So I used to listen, I still kind of listen occasionally to some fitness influencer named Jay Ferrugia back in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. He had a blog, I think Renegade Strength or something. And I remember him saying one time, someone complained they couldn't afford grass-fed beef, couldn't afford to go to the good gyms with the good equipment to work out. And he said, stop working out, don't worry about fitness or any of this for 6 months and fix your fucking life. Make enough money. Figure it out. I was sitting there like broke and be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But then I sat about it and I was like, if you're not stuck, this isn't some salesy pitch. And this could have nothing to do with writing, but there are ways to make more money. Plenty of them. And it's not going to happen overnight. But if you commit, let's say 3 to 5 years, and you could continue to write as you do this, but over the next 3 or 5 years, I'm going to make more money so I could leave my town or yes, my country, because people say, I live in this communist country. I live in this place and I can't write what I want to write. I need to have a pen name. Okay. Well, if you want to do this and be for real and you live in a place that kills people, that hurts people, then my God, why the fuck are you living there? Oh, my family. Okay. It's time to leave. Are you going to blame them forever? If so, then cool. Write with a pen name and no one's going to care about you. But if you want to live your life to the fullest, then you need to get to a place. And there are so many places. You could go to goddamn South America. You could go to Thailand. There's so many cheap places to live in the world that aren't America. You don't need to come to my town in Arizona and buy a $400,000 house. You could go to a place that's probably cheaper than you are at right now and live and write. Yes, you can get there. Yes, you can do it. I don't care if you're listening to this on a flip phone in Africa, in the most remote area right now, or this is a MP4 recording that's been sent out on a USB. You can figure it out. How many people have figured it out all throughout time? Yes, it's a risk. Yes, it's a challenge. You could fail. But my God, do you care about your work? Do you care about your work? And let me tell you something, because you maybe didn't think of this. If I had a story right now, if I said with my book, Desert Orpheus, I can't write this book. I'm in the desert of America right now, but if I release this in the desert of America, I would awaken the desert dwellers. I would be unsafe in my own country if I release Desert Orpheus right now. And so I'm going to have to move to Spain, where they filmed the spaghetti westerns, to Italy, to that desert, to continue my work in a more open-minded country. And then when I got there, I immersed myself in Spanish. And now you guys got to check out my new book, Mystical Spanish Poetry, which is literally one of my next books coming out. But anyway, I could literally do that. Would that story be compelling? And let's say it was true. Like I said, it's not true for me. But let's say for whatever reason, the American desert had crazy people. It does. That would come after me because I vote the pagan god of Orpheus in the desert. Then, dude, how big would that be? Be honest with me. That'd be huge. That would at least 10x my sales. You could do the same thing if you have that excuse right now. You could do the same thing if you live in Odessa. I ripped up my entire life and moved to make this happen, to be a writer. No one wants to hear, yeah, I just sat and typed. Yeah, I just did it. Here it is. Yeah, go me. Let's go. I'm from a small town in Arkansas. Ozark. Shut up. Like, honestly. Okay, so let's go. I've now broken down the myth. No one in your life is going to care. If you're in a country and you're unsafe, it's time to leave, because why would you want to live there anyway? That place must really, really suck. If the few countries in the world that you can't say shit that you want to say, I know for a fact that there are more beautiful places with more beautiful men and women with better schools than that place. And they would love to have you, especially if you're a productive member of society. Now, what about safety, direct safety? I know someone who talked to them, I have a crazy ex-boyfriend, Ian. If he sees me writing work out there and writing stuff that's modeled on him, he's going to come and kill me. And this gets a little bit harder, but it goes back to principle number 2. And you're like, Ian, how do we get off of AI? This is the solution. It's authors waking up and doing this. Ian, what can I do? I'm unsafe. Well, here in America, you guys, this is going to blow some minds. We have an equalized playing field when it comes to combat. I have a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I could kill any untrained women in martial arts in the country if it was a combat situation. If they have no martial arts experience, I don't care who they are, how tall they are, I will beat them. Most men would, honestly. Most men can beat up women unless you're a wimp or they're like really strong or something crazy. But, and if they're trained, that's cool. Like, there are really good female martial artists that would kick most men in this country's ass. But, okay, well, I could beat 0 women who have competency with a gun and have it on them. I can't beat them. And if you don't live in a country that's possible, option 2, leave the country and leave this crazy person that's terrorizing you behind. If you're from Spain and you have a crazy fucking boyfriend, move somewhere else, and then you don't have to worry about it. Hide yourself a little bit in terms of where you live. The same is true in America. If you have an abusive boyfriend in Victorville, California, then I'm sure you'll find a really, really nice guy in Central Florida. Just joking. But nonetheless, you can move across the country and have a weapon to defend yourself. And yes, the worst possible reality is death. But if that's where we're at, then I think that circling back to option 1, if you are a man or a woman who got in a relationship with someone who really showed the red flag signs long before you were in with them of abuse and these things, then I feel really bad for you. And like, that really sucks. Like, my wife suffered abuse in a previous relationship. Like, I've known plenty of people who have. That really sucks. But I think it may be a good exercise for you to fix your life and fix the problems that led you into that relationship right now. And then through that, you may gain a newfound confidence in yourself and what you are doing. And that will help you overcome whatever excuse you are making for not sharing your artistic potential with the world. And at the most extreme level, and here we are now. And people will say, "I want me to die. I'm not dying for my writing." Yeah, okay. Well, no one's going to live for it either, because no one's going to care. At the end of the day, I don't know. If I died right now because of this channel, let's say, but you told me I woke up 1 million people, it would suck to leave my kid and my wife behind. And I wouldn't tell you that I would pick it. I probably wouldn't. But if there is an afterlife, I wouldn't be mad about it. I wouldn't say, well, I wish I just would have sat and did nothing. I would have been like, well, this just proves that people suck and we're not ready to wake up yet. And that's the same with your situation. That's the tagline of the literary renaissance. Write a book, buy a gun. Get a billboard, adopt a pit bull, join the literary renaissance. That's it. No more excuses. AI is here. It probably can write better than you right now. I've seen it write better shit than me sometimes. You guys are here for me though. Anyway, it's the experience. And so are we going to step up? Are we going to evolve? Are we going to stop being introverts? Or I shouldn't say introverts. We can be introverts. Fuck, we can be introverts all day. Antisocial. And are we going to figure it out? If you can, the equation, it's right here in the middle of the table, that you being an author that no one cares about and you being a full-time author or changing people's life and having people care about your work, the middle is you figuring it out, getting shit done, making it happen. That's the middle zone, is just that, not making excuses. On this channel, I'm going to give you all the advice you need, practical steps to save you hundreds, thousands of hours of time. But you don't need anything. You can shut off the internet forever and make it happen. You don't need the internet. Like, you could literally, if you tried hard enough in person, you could literally make it happen. Because in person, you can convince other people to make it happen for you. I mean, these are the things I'll talk about on this channel. Let's say you aren't good at marketing. Why don't you find someone to help you fucking market? Why don't you work with other people? Why don't you find new pathways than publishing houses? That's all getting a publishing deal is. And its rawest form. It's just getting people to do shit for you that you don't want to do or can't do. You can still do that. And you don't have to pay people. And this is called being social. This is what musicians figured out. Oh, you'll make me a beat? All I have to do is rap? Perfect. I'll give you a cut. Oh, you master stuff? You make cover? I'll give you a cut of the streams. Oh, you do a book cover? Do a book. Okay, here's 5%. That's what companies do. Give me money and I'll give you a part of the pie. Are you confident in your work? Can you sell someone? Is it that good? Are you that good? Guys, if you were that good of a writer and you hate internet marketing, like let's say you think you're hot shit and you hate this entire online game, you could literally, first of all, you could walk up to an agent, and if it's that good, they'll sell it for you. But if you really wanted to, you could assemble your own team of Avengers and give them a slice of the pie and do something similar to traditional publishing on your own. You could easily find an artist to take a cut of the book if they read it. It would take you'd have to cycle through a lot of people, but someone will do it. You can find someone to market it if they know they are getting a cut. And that's the problem with these publishing houses. They've gotten so big and have so many hires that aren't good, and the meritocracy is gone within the company a lot of the time, that you don't have people caring about your book. And it's crazy to say, listen to this. What if you gave 100% of your book away? Or 92%, because with publishing houses, you lose 92% of your royalties most of the time. 92%. So right now, if no one cares about you, can't get an agent, can't get a deal, you can give 92% of your book away to get some traction. Because let's say you wrote 3 books and you got 0% of it, but you had other people build you a fan base of 10,000 people. Would you rather take having 3 books that you did on your own that sold 50 copies each, or having 3 books that you wrote that you don't own and you have 10,000 people who are ravenous about your work? But to make those type of things happen, you have to be in the world. You have to be a likable person. You have to be a social person. So hopefully I've reoriented your thinking and you can now see the problem. It is up to us, to become these celebrities, to push this movement forward. And luckily, AI can actually help us. It can help you edit or do whatever you need it to do to make you a better writer. It can help you overcome and figure out how you can market your work or how to get it out to people, resolve whatever issues you need. We have more power than ever because, like I said, it's not about the punches and the kicks. It's not about what AI can write. It's about making people care about the written word. And it's easy to do that. AI will do that seamlessly with entertaining stuff. But when it comes to transformative stuff, it's not only the message, it's the deliverer. The message times the medium times the messenger equals the product, which if we're talking about your writing, I know can change the world. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for the support. Expect big things from this channel. I'm going to give the blueprint. A lot of the things I talked about in this, the giving away the 92%, all that stuff will be covered at length, how to network with people coming up very soon. And so I will see you guys in the next video.